specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
True Black Essentials is a retail opportunity to bring Black businesses under one roof, where every product on every shelf in every aisle will be Black owned and Black produced by people all over the world. Statistics show that the 1.
YT Productions.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay, just tune into the
Man, this is Dr. inside the HBCU Sports Lab with none other than Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. And it sounds like the fellas are ready to go in the lab today, man. They look hype. Must have been a good weekend. Good day at the work. Or is it episode 100?
I like episode 100, Dr. Cavil. This is a special occasion.
Absolutely.
We get to take a look at episode 100, and we got some HBCU action. We got a little sports to talk about. It's time to get into it.
Yes, don't forget about the HBCU news, the buzz of the day. It's a good day.
Yeah, it is. It is a good day. Every day is a good day for HBCU sports, the culture, the sporting HBCU diaspora, as I call it, and certainly for all our fans that come in the lab to get the mix of what we're going to get into. Like we said, this is our 100th episode that we're celebrating with Roy, our production extraordinaire, putting it together. We go back a little earlier than that, and we're going to see if we can find a way to tie in a little history and surprise you, give you a little backstory about how all this came together. But with that, let's get into it. Welcome to episode 100, as I said, of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that is covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports, from the institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and businesses of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KSOH 1230 AM studio with Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. So much going on, great news and all things. We'll just start out with that. Again, this is our 100th episode, so a round of applause for getting 100 deep. Again, as I said, that's 100 episodes with the great, extraordinary producer that does it all for us from BCSN, Roy, just Evans, getting a lot done. And we'll have a lot of the mix in there, a lot going on. Shout out to him, Phi Beta Sigma, Fraternity Incorporated. They just celebrate their annual anniversary. So to make sure we give him proper love and all kudos for what he does in terms of that announcement. With that, let me go straight to Charles, buttoning up and all. Tell us, what is some of the HBCU news of the day that you have that you want to let us all know about?
Sure thing. Let's get right into it. And kudos. Let's start it out with kudos to FAMU's Rudy Hubbard as he was selected to go into College Football Hall of Fame. He is finally getting his due. It is beyond time. This comes courtesy of FAMU Athletics. The class was announced during the noon broadcast at ESPN Sports Center. But Coach Hubbard, he's the only HBCU head coach to win the 1AA, which is now known as the FCS national title. Rudy Hubbard posted 83 wins in his 12 seasons at Florida A&M. He becomes the fourth Rattler coach to enter the College Football Hall of Fame. Of course, during his stretch there at Florida A&M, Rattlers compiled a 30-5 record, including a perfect 11-0 mark in 1977. The team won back-to-back Black College National Championships and conference titles in 1977 and 1978. Of course, 1978, Hubbard guided Florida A&M to a 12-1 record and wrapped up the season winning the inaugural NC1AA football championship as the Rattlers defeated UMass 35-28. So kudos to the great Rudy Hubbard for getting into the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yes, as you said, it about time in a lot of ways. I was excited to hear this news. You hear some Hall of Famers and you'll be like, that's great. But in terms of Rudy Hubbard and what he did with that inaugural win of the 1AA championship at the time, now FCS for HBCU programs, with that classic semifinal matchup against Jackson State University. Let's tell the whole history in terms of what it looked like. You know, we had 4 teams in the playoffs, 2 of them were HBCUs, and boy, that semifinal was one for the record books. And whoever came out of that game, in a lot of ways, a lot of people thought that that was the de facto championship game. But they had one more to get it done. They got it done against UMass in that championship game. And the rest is literally history. But he had some other big wins during that peak of time when you talk about it. That was like the crowning jewel. But he really got it done in a lot of ways. I want to give a shout out to brother, that's the FAMU National Alumni President, getting it done in so many ways as he pushed that initiative appropriately, as well as brother Brian Gautier, former president of the Alpha Ada Lambda chapter here in Houston, Texas. So I want to give them and all the rest of the FAMU Rattlers that were out there pushing this initiative as it kind of went silent, and they decided to take up the mantle and push it through. And it sounds like a lot of the noise and echo they did got to the right person's ear, because he certainly was deserving of it. But it never hurts to get some of that push, along with the announcement from HBCU Game Day. They did a feature story about what that looked like, including an interview. So just want to give a kudos for all those that were involved in making this possible for Coach Rudy Hubbard. In so many ways, certainly deserves it. With that, let me jump right into Mike and see what Mike wants to put on the table for HBCU news of the day.
So you may have seen it on HBCU Buzz or Twitter or Undefeated, but North Carolina A&T State University football coach Sam Washington, you know that's my uncle, y'all, was the first HBCU coach to participate in ESPN's MegaCast. The MegaCast covered the highly anticipated college football playoff national championship with #1 Alabama versus Ohio State last night. And most of you probably know what happened. However, the focus is on Coach Washington, whose teams have won 2 consecutive Celebration Bowls as the top historically Black college football team. He's been coaching for 34 years. He landed his first job as an assistant coach with Bethune-Cookman and has had coaching stints at Johnson C. Smith, North Carolina Central, Mississippi Valley, and Grambling. He got his first head coaching job, of course, with the Aggies in 2018. The veteran coach provided his expertise on Monday night alongside SEC network analyst and former BCS champion winning head coach Gene Chizik of Wake Forest and head coach Dave Clawson and Liberty head coach Hugh Freeze. So congratulations to Coach Washington on being the first African-American on the ESPN MegaCast.
Yeah, I got to give a little shout out. Something tells me that John Grant had his hands on top of that somehow.
Absolutely.
But kudos to Sam Washington, well deserved. Always like to see when HBCUs get a chance to do that. I didn't watch the game. Right now, I'm boycotting the Power Five schools, what I refer to those historically white college universities, particularly what they pushed through this year. Kudos, they got it done. The game, in a lot of ways, was anticlimactic, particularly as what I've heard from all the frameworks of it is like Alabama just roughshod over Ohio State. But I did sneak over, as I was asked by John Grant, in a lot of ways, to see Sam Washington with the megacast, and it was great to see. He had his shirt on representing A&T.
Absolutely.
Proud about it, so he did us proud in terms of that. And anytime you get that opportunity was big time. But kind of moving on past that great point that you have there, let's go back over there with you, Charles. Any other news that you want to add to the tabletop right now?
Yeah, and I want to say on a somber note, this comes from Howard Athletics. Howard University Department of Athletics mourns the loss of Anthony Tony Lee, who died Monday, January 4th, due to COVID complications. He was the official voice of Bison Athletics, serving as a public address announced for the past 2 years following the death of former legendary PA announcer Shelley Bauer Jr., who died December 2018. So I definitely wanted to extend our condolences to the Howard University Athletics family in the passing of Anthony Tony Lee.
Yeah, certainly sad news when you talk about anybody losing their life and connected with HBCUs. A lot of people, I'm sure, recognize that voice last year. Sad. COVID-19 is certainly moving throughout the country and having its negative effects in so many different ways, particularly touching the African-American Black community. Got to find a way to stay strong, stay safe. Mask up, social distance, wash your hands, and continue to do what's necessary. And those that are in the front line and necessary, certainly in terms of vaccination, can understand moving forward with that identity. With that, Mike, any additional news that you want to add as well?
Yeah, I've been on this HBCU buzz kick, and I saw it in some of our news. But Earl the Pearl Monroe saw himself studying at Winston-Salem State to become a teacher. Of course, we know the story for that. He became the legendary basketball player. Well, now the Earl the Pearl Monroe New Renaissance Basketball High School will be located in the Bronx with its first class of freshmen starting this fall. The charter school will have a ribbon cutting ceremony in June and will open in September. The school will have its new building by 2023. So according to him, this is a project I couldn't do all by myself. If that was the case, it would have never happened, said the former Winston-Salem State star. So if you look at it, you know, he was a star. He averaged 29 and 20, something like that, in his sophomore and junior seasons at Winston-Salem State. So congratulations to him on that accomplishment. Earl the Pearl.
Man, that's a pretty good one, Mike. You snuck that one in on me. I didn't even catch that one. Great piece of reporting and touching on that bit of news. Anytime you hear folks talking about educating people, that's a good thing, particularly when it's connected to HBCUs. And Earl Monroe, coming from the Teachers College, it makes a lot of sense that he goes back and is opening a charter school and teaching. Boy, I tell you, that's well connected. Let me shout out to some people before we go to you, back to you, Charles, and see what else you have on your plate that you might want to add. Kate Johnson says, good evening inside the HBCU Sports Lab, ready for the election. Thomas White Jr., I should say, is on here checking us out. Getting it done in so many ways. Brent Willie Alex Hines says, good evening inside the HBCU Sports Lab and listeners ready for the election. Richmond, Virginia, representing CIAA country, checking in there. Chuck Hunt is always checking us out, giving us a little updates there as he talks to the people. Dwayne, Calvin, Jackson, Jalen Riley, Tony Daniels. Kate Johnson says, hey, communicating with some of the fans in there, talking about, hey, hello, Willie, Alex Hines, and Chuck Hunt. They're always in the mix, just checking it out weekly as they get it going. Ricky Burton, Daryl, Terrell, Tony Daniels, as I said, coming in here. Kevin Drain, Reggie Howell's on here. CIAA in the house, always getting it done. Lonnie Shaw, North Carolina A&T in the house, and we gave a little love to his coach Sam Washington, representing in so many different ways. Just giving some continued shout outs here. Belinda Johnson, LaShant Harris, Jay Hillett, Jerry on, Jay Mack. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you, Jay Mack, boy. Jay Mike be cutting me up on that Instagram, boy. Especially one of those little posts he put on there. I'm not even gonna talk about the fluffer that he talked about. That just
no, don't go there.
Carlos Brown is in the house checking us out. Check Carlos Brown every Saturday at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, as Carlos Brown with the Carlos Brown Show gives you all the latest and greatest news out to HBCU with a special lens looking at Southern. He gave you all that great update with the extensions from the coaches. He had a great dialogue on there last weekend. Had me all captivated. Calvin April, Reginald Johnson, Amos Fawcett, Reginald Johnson, as we said, Ralph Cooper doing his thing in the back, taking care of us. Carl Gobon, Kendrick B. Callis says, "What's up, Doc? What's up, fellas?" Always enjoy the show. Kendrick Callis, man, we used to hang out as we were in that first class over there, leadership class at Texas Southern University. He's taking another opportunity as he left Texas Southern University and left me with the fight over there, trying to get things done at Texas Southern University. But I'm having a great time. Tamia Washington. So I definitely understand that folks move on and have great opportunities. So just wanted to shout out for some folks. Reginald Johnson jumped in and said, "Good evening, gentlemen, from the 1400 Lynch Street family. Go Tigers." Oh, no doubt about it.
What up, home team?
As we continue to wait to surprise you, let's go back to Charles. In terms of some other news of the day, did you have something you wanted to jump in there real quick, Mike? Did I jump over you?
No, I think it's back to my boy CB over there.
All right,
Well,
go ahead.
Sure thing. Of course, we got football, virtual football media day tomorrow, which is January 13th and 14th, where we'll get an opportunity to kind of hear from the coaches for this upcoming spring season. So we'll get an early preview of what we might see in February from the SWAC virtual media day. Some other news, and this is just coming across to my email here. MEAC announced their basketball weekly honors presented by Coca-Cola. Junior guard MJ Randolph from Florida A&M has been named the MEAC Men's Basketball Player of the Week. And also you have Anthony Tark of Coppin State. He was this week's MEAC Defensive Player of the Week. And redshirt freshman Keenan Sarvin of Coppin State, he's the MEAC Rookie of the Week. So those are the players of the week over there in the MEAC. I take a look at this guard forward, Anthony Tark. This is like his fourth time out of like 7 weeks being the defensive player of the week for the MEAC. So he's always showing up on here. So kudos to those young men in terms of being players of the week over there in MEAC.
Certainly kudos. Want to make sure we give shout outs to all these players of the week. And a lot of the players are getting in their grind and getting it done. They want to get it played. And the administrators are finding a way to get it done because we are in COVID. So you see these cancellations coming back and forth. In fact, you had some games that we'll talk about a little later as I bring in my poll if we can get in there. I debuted it last week, but we'll see if we can jump into tell you some of the magic numbers from the poll rankings, see if we can have some fun there. If I go back to you, Mike, let's talk about Fred Whittick. Karen Griffin says, "Greetings from Cali," the West Coast out there. Prairie View A&M National Alumni Association president, always showing us some love. Kimberly Reynolds is on. Jarvis Austin, John Jenkins. Christopher Darrell says, "Jackson, Mississippi, checking in. Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club. I see. I appreciate it." Charles Bishop, "I love the new Dion and Cadillac of Jackson video. Entertaining." Little insight. We'll see what that's all about. Willie Alex Hines said, "I will be at the SWAC football virtual day tomorrow and Thursday." Good deal. Checking us all out. Make sure you share all the news. We'll try to get in there in bits and pieces. We'll make sure we'll share the news with you for all those that can't get in with the media requests, but we'll make sure that you'll keep up with all the greatest and latest Belinda Johnson says, will the media be online? Yes, they will be able to attend online. You had to send in your credentials, so you might go check the website if you hadn't turned them in, see if you can sneak them in there. Hopefully it's not too late. But yes, media did have the ability to send in their request and be online in terms of that format. Oh man, look at Charles talking about it was fresh. He just snuck in a little. I don't know about that. Burton says, Graham fam checking in. D-SWAC Football Media Day. Yes, yes, yes. Just saw the video. Chuck Hunt said, boy, I tell you, Quentin Henry. These folks for D I love. It's a little different in terms of what's going on around the world with how we see that. I think we got Ryan McGinty jumping in here. So as we get him going and set up and let him come in here, we'll get a little bit of that story. For those that didn't realize, he was connected to us really early. I see you representing, got the Texas Southern Capital. Oh, boy, I tell you, all
looking and always looking angry. That man, that's always looking angry for no reason. I love you, Ryan.
Oh boy.
You can't get him. You can't get him to smile.
You can't hear?
Is he
Check out
unmuted?
the headphones, man. You got all that technology. You don't know how to work technology. You don't know how to make it work. We're gonna let him plug back in as he fix it in with that mean mug you got on, so he can get to hear you, Mike, talk about him a little bit there as we go in there. Can you hear us now, Ryan McGinty? You don't know how to work your stuff, man?
Well, between Zoom and Blue Jean, you know what we deal with.
Oh yeah, we got
Why you looking so angry, man? You always angry.
Hey, it's about 100 degrees in this office now. So hey, you saw, and we only got 50% of the games last night. So I'm halfway angry. I'm half happy, half angry. You know why?
It's gonna take something to get these games.
So we got the team back together in a lot of ways for the 100 episode. We go back further than that in terms of the thought process of bringing this together. But this is our 100th show, I should say, with Roy Evans doing our production in the background. And y'all have something in common. He is a member of the fraternity. I started to say great, but I don't want to give y'all too much love. I know just want to say belated happy Founders Day to you, but he's a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And so we thought it was appropriate if we're going to celebrate 100 years with our producer, we're going to go all the way back to bring in one of the original members. So how you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Ryan McGinty is the Sports Information Director at Texas Southern University. He's been a sports information and in the business of covering sports for many years. Grambling, Prairie View, MEAC conference office. I guess I shouldn't say conference, the C is on there already. But with the MEAC office and now back in Texas at Texas Southern University, it's good to work with you in many different capacities, seeing you doing your thing. But also you have a new addition, so congratulations. It looks like you're sleeping pretty well now. I guess things get back.
Yeah. Looks like
maybe that's why he's get on here.
Hey, the first one did everything you don't expect a baby to do. Go to bed at night, wake up. This one, now what you people say, the baby keep you up. He don't keep me up, I'll admit it. My wife may get upset and say that I said that, but he's a good kid. He's a COVID baby, unfortunately. You can't expose him to the world like a lot of things now. That's just the bad part about it.
Mm-hmm. Man.
Well, I know. Mike just sent one to Michigan. I saw the other day, and I'm starting. So it's give you, a lot of change since 20. Well, what was it? Our first show was 2014.
Yeah, I think 2014 or 2013.
Yes, a lot of change since then. But as long as we here in good health, that's all I ask for at this point.
Well, congratulations, man, on the second one for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah.
I always mess with
Talk
you.
a little bit for those that don't know that have come for the live. We have some people that go back, and we basically started in just terrestrial in the studio with Ralph Cooper now the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper. Make sure I acknowledge him appropriately. We don't always get those Radio Hall of Famers, especially on the sporting side with all the history he has. So I want to make sure people understand the legacy that we come from and what we were birthed out of. And you have even more connections earlier with that. But as I started talking about this, you were part of making this happen from your perspective. And then we'll go to Mike, and then we'll let Charles jump in and talk about how he jumped into it, because that was a good story as well. But from your perspective, how did all this come together? What do you recall back 2014 when we was like, hey, man?
Well, first of all, I'm not mistaken before I go any further. If not, Roy Evans, make sure I got the last name right. Jericho Broadcasting Arm. I dealt with him at Grambling. He worked with Santoya Black on some projects. So this thing, he probably doesn't remember me, but I remember him because his name was discussed several times in office. So great guy. No wonder this show was going even better than what it was when I was around, because you got good people behind you. And
that's like, look,
absolutely,
right,
absolutely, that's absolutely.
You well when you was out there. I won't get y'all my folks in trouble. So I know you just sign your name and all that good stuff. We don't.
But ironically, this is what I remember. It had to have been maybe 2012 or 13, because I remember living on the southwest side of town, and Cavil called me. We want to do a radio show. And, I've done it before, obviously, through the high school ranks, but I haven't done it since I moved back to Houston, which was in 2009. So Cavil came up with the idea, want to do a radio show. There was no such thing as Zoom and all these other outlets. If you had to get on through the internet, you had to have some high level stuff, nothing what you have to do now. I remember the show came on, Cavil, I'm not mistaken, 9 o'clock after the Sunday Red Golf Show at KCOH, and I had to be left the house about 8:30, been at station 8:45. We did that for a few months, and the best part I remember about that part of the show at the time was after the game. After the show, we got to go across the street and always caught the last part of the Sunday night football game.
So that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, I remember that. So
that was about Ryan. Just careful when you tell him to take over.
Right. I
didn't know if we want everybody to know that.
The Sunday night game, I used to go catch that, and Big Clyde was behind the studio, behind the producer, and so it was an interesting time. We had some good times. I was actually the first time. That was Henry Frazier's second year at Central, and I remember his big interview he had when he was just getting that program turned around, and a few years later, you saw where that program went from there. Then after that, Dr. Cavil, at that point, some adjustments were made, and I give him credit on this one. I think brought in Mike, which was a good big help also. But then we moved the show to 7 o'clock on Tuesdays at the old KCOA studios on Alameda, same spot where we was at. And so then we went from Sunday night compete with NFL to where we almost had prime time pretty much. And I think the show kind of just took off from there. It kind of morphed a few directions from there until where it is now. But that's pretty much, from what I remember, that's where it started from. Just an idea we threw on a dartboard one day. And then we started 9 o'clock on a Sunday night all the way to a Tuesday evening. And now still Tuesday, just a different format, but still on KCOH, just a new number, 12:30.
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, wow.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot about the Sunday night. That's how. That's why it's good to get a group to kind of talk about it, to make sure now we have this recorded and archived, so that it's in the history books. Write about it appropriately over the years. I'm even doing academic. Brought Charles in here to talk about this. We did a national association of sports sociologists. We did a research presentation where we did the live show. We did it called emancipatory journalism in terms of the presentation, and we actually got a chance to interview the now commissioner, Dr. Charles McCullough, on the show, giving our viewers from an academic framework of understanding what we were doing about giving a voice to HBCUs. So Roy came in, produced that, and it went off like a gem. It was crazy as we brought all that in. So thank you for bringing back those great memories and sharing to our listeners a little bit about the history side of this, of what they see now and where it started. When you go to Mike, gets Mike's perspective on where we started and your perspective about being in the studio with Ryan, and that juxtapose in a lot of ways of how all that went down. Let's not forget, we got Ralph Cooper in the background pushing us, and I just came on as a guest originally to do my polls, and we're gonna get into polls so people can get a real how we used to talk about those polls, because that used to be hilarious the way y'all used to find a way to get polls. So we're gonna play that back a little bit as we're updating, and it just makes sense that we tie it all together. But we got Chatterbox, another member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. He asked me to come on and do a halftime in terms of doing the polls during Texas Southern University basketball game. He just saw me with these polls and run around. He said, "Man, what is that?" I said, "It's the poll." He said, "You ranked the team? Where Texas Southern?" You know, y'all tiger. He said, "Where Texas Southern?" I said, "Texas Southern. This week they at the top of the poll." He said, "Oh, y'all, you need to bring that poll on." Out here's it. I'm like out of state. He said, "Man, what they got?" He said, "No, he right here in Houston, Texas Southern." He said, "Come tell him to come studio." Next thing you know, I'm in studio a couple of years, and he's like, "Man, it's time for your show." And I called Ryan, first person I know, "Ryan, we need to do a show." He said, "Okay." I said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I had those recordings of the poll.
Cavil. Back a little bit. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
I said I got those recordings of you on Chatterbox show. I can send it to you within the next few minutes if y'all want to hear it.
Oh, that's it. I was real red then, you know what I'm saying? I was so green, I was red.
Yeah.
So Mike may not recall this. Mike called in and said, "Hey," and I'm listening to a station out there. Mike calls in and he's testing to be on the radio. I hear Mike's voice. It does a really good job. I said, "Man, Mike, I didn't know you do it." He's, "Man, I always wanted to do that." Well, I said, "Well, you know, Ryan and I are talking about." Go ahead, Mike, pick it up from there.
Yeah, I was a little bit reluctant, and at the time, I don't know if I had auditioned. There was a local ESPN show, and they had a Rock the Mic contest, and you had to do a voice recording, analyzing your favorite team or sport. And I let Kenyatta hear it, and at the same time, he and Ryan had already started. And I was like, "Man, I don't know I could do this." But so I called in. I was like, let me show you. Let me see what I can do. Let me see what this thing is about. And I started getting on his poll. But before that, I don't know if you remember, all his polls would start by email. So there'd be all kinds of email chatter because nobody agreed with his poll, but he called it the official Black College poll. And everybody bought it. So it was like, "Man, there's no way they should be number one." He was like, "That's what the poll said. That's what the numbers came out." I was like, "Let me see this computer you got." So that's how we started. We started going back and forth on the poll. So I called in on the show to get on the poll. And before long, I was sitting next to Ryan and Dr. Cavil. And Ryan and I also had some chemistry. I gave him his first drink of Grand Marnier. So when he was talking nights after going to watch football, I would have to make Ryan take a drink. Just take a drink.
Hey, Grand Marnier is in Italian, that means water. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so the like Ryan said, the show just metamorphed into, you know, what it is now and grew. And I left. I had started the MBA program at Texas Southern. I was like, "Man, I don't know if I can keep up." He's like, "Just do what you can." Dr. Cavil was. And then I went to Germany for, a year and a half, and I was calling in and giving updates of HBCU players that were playing in Germany. So I was able to keep that connection. And then when we came back, we were in KCOH Stadium studios, and Ralph Cooper was also a big help. He would whisper in your ear, "Yeah, I like that. You challenged Doc." challenge him some more. If you ever want to, the same thing you would tell Charles, if you want to come and just talk by yourself on Friday, just come on in. I like that. That's good chemistry. Keep challenging Doc. So, so that's how.
That sounds like Ralph.
Very much so. Very much so.
Going.
Exactly.
Let me jump in here. Roosevelt says, "What the heck is that on Ryan's head, giving you grief?" People have no idea how great Earl the Pearl was. People are getting into the discussion as we gave that high update earlier. Roy, make sure put the information out there. The Black College Sports Network and JBN Jericho Broadcast Network put both JSU and GSU campus radio stations on the internet. Check out that history. I know JSU was in 2006 or so, and Ryan McGinty is where he says was at Grambling during that period of time. Fred Whitting wanted everybody to make sure they understand the greatness. Earl Monroe, 41.5 points per game as a senior, 1,329 points on the season, won the NCAA College Division Championship, what now we know as the Division II. Great update, Fred Whitting. Make sure the people know. I'm sure our fans know, but it's always good to get the information out there. Alex Hines said, watch the Talladega roundup today between Rust and Xavier. Good game. Xavier won 79-74 in OT. Talladega defeated Edward Waters 80-69 in terms of some more NAIA updates. Thanks for that. Willie, Alex Hines, making sure we get that NAIA love inside and outside the polls. They're good information as we continue to dig. With that, let me switch over to the newest edition, but one of the best editions, I will say, in a lot of ways, and I believe my fellow co-host agree with that in so many days. Ryan might say something different because he took his spot.
We work together.
Ryan was on the bigger and better things. What'd you say, Ryan?
I said we worked together originally because I'll say this about Charles. I'm like, who is Charles Bishop? I've never met him before. And he kind of, I still got the email when Cavil introduced him to us. I can put that out if you want to.
Wow.
But come to find out, I have a little history with Charles, and we'll stop right there and leave it at
We'll
that.
stop right there.
Why don't you share it? People want to know. Inquiry minds want to know.
I mean, hey, Charles helped me out last year in a bind, so we good now.
How about that?
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So I get this random call, and people know me. I do not answer my cell phone without numbers because I have a lot of people in there. So I let it go to recording. I will check it, and if you leave a message, I certainly will call you back. But if I'm moving around, I won't. Something told me to answer the call. It was a rainy day, and I was running later than I would like to get to the studio. Still there to get on time, but I was running late. And I get this call as I'm trying to prepare. Wasn't quite running late yet, but running in, I get this call. So I pick up the phone, and it's Mr. Charles Bishop. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan of the show. And like most people, I was, a sports radio consumer, but nobody was talking about HBCUs. And I came across this talk show that was talking about HBCUs. And I made up my mind that day when I, heard Dr. Cavil, heard Ralph Cooper. I was like, I got to be a part of this. So I literally looked up who is this Kenyatta Cavil, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's in Houston. Okay, all right. And then it's like you hunt from there, like, oh, he's over at Texas Southern. So literally, I randomly just called his office phone, and lo and behold, I found his cell phone. Lo and behold, he picked up. And I told him, that I just, in some way, I'll keep stats. I just want to be a part of the show, and I'll feed you stats or do whatever it is that you guys do for your radio show. And he said, well, let's come and talk. And he's like, if you're serious about it, come by my office. So I'll never forget, it was a rainy day, and you know how Houston is. Houston floods real easily. So I'm literally driving through almost floodwaters, trying to get over to Texas Southern. And I go in and I introduce myself, and I happen to look up and I saw a little ape on sitting on the back of on his desk back there. I was like, oh, he's Frank. Okay. Okay. So from that point, we had a good talk, and out of the blue, he was like, well, you want to come up to the studio? I was like, sure, I can come up there and observe. He's like, no, you're gonna be on the. I was like, what? I'm gonna be on the radio. Wait. I wasn't ready for that. So, so I literally got an opportunity the day I met Dr. Cavil to actually be on the radio show and provide whatever input that I had that day, because this is my life. I enjoy it. So I happen to have some statistics ready to go and some stuff ready to go in my head, and that's like 5 years later now.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as fate would tell it, let me give you this, and I don't know if anybody really knows this. As he said, he calls up. So I never thought he was going to come. I get random calls more than I would like to admit to, as if I'm doing something big. But I get these calls for different things. And most times people don't follow through. And so I'm like, yeah, just come by the office. I really didn't think he was going to come by the office. As fate would have it, as he said, he rushed and comes to the office. Mike is moving around. He can't make the show. Ryan can't make the show.
Yeah.
And so the reason I told him, come on with me. In fact, he didn't know he was going to be on the radio until he got over there. I get in the studio, he's walking in and say, hey, get these mics. You're going to be on the show. He's like, oh, I just want to help. I said, no, you on the show. We'll make it work.
That's so exactly what happened.
In the office calls and Mike, man, I can't do this or whatever. Ryan. And that's why we did it in my mindset. This is the strategy behind this. That's why I did it as a group, because I knew we had other commitments and we couldn't necessarily be fully engaged, but I wanted to have the ability to have this conversation piece with all of us just getting in the business. I knew it'd be a little more of a challenge holding up a show. Give you more into that, Ralph Cooper had to do a visit to support his wife in terms of some stuff that went back home. And so he chose me to get on the mic. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm ready for all this. But to support him, and he knew a little bit of, about me, and he knows how to turn people in certain directions to make them get even more of the bug. He has a magical touch about doing that, to really reading you and understanding where and how to push you. And so next thing you know, I'm doing the show. And so I struggled through the show. Most people said it was good. But in my mind, knowing everything, I'm reading, I have all this paperwork. I get about halfway through the show. I'm running out of material. I finally get a call. And so I get the dialogue going back and make it through the rest of the show. And I was so nervous because I don't know what else to talk about. Please, somebody call. I didn't say it, but I said the number. Somebody picked it up, called me, and we got in the dialogue, and the rest of them picked up. And so I was like, oh, my goodness, I'm not going to embarrass Ralph Cooper. So I thought I was so much. So I'm like, I don't want to be on this show by myself. So I'm like, yeah, man, you good. Then he mentioned about the ape, and I saw you alpha. I saw, yeah, this fake. You come. I said, come on over here with me. Get in the studio. I said, man, get in that seat right there. You're gonna be on the show. Here's some paperwork. Here's the script. Let's go. So we talked, we vibed. It was really good. At the end of the show, I said, welcome aboard. You're now part of the show. We're gonna change that. He's like, oh, really? I said, I think I said, can you do the show regularly? He said, yeah. I said, well, congratulations, you're part of the show. Great job. So that's really how this team, in a lot of ways, came together. It was truly fate. And I hope with the followers we out here and those that are celebrating this, I hope that you appreciate a little bit of that backstory and get an understanding why we vibe the way we do in a lot of ways in terms of that. Ryan literally had to leave. He had a great opportunity, talked to him, had some way to kind of line it up. I said, bye, you got to go. We don't believe in holding anybody out. Now you know that Charles is part of the 1400 club over there. He asked me. I was like, man, if you don't do that, I'm going to be upset. I pushed Mike and Joe as we had the interview last week in regards to 1876 sports and culture. We are about growing people. That's, I don't know how I would be a faculty member myself and not to be about growing. So while, I might have my name in front of this, it kind of works out. It just happens to have the doctor in there. So it gives us a little pizzazz, if you want to call it that. And so that's there. But this is a group. And Ryan, quietly behind the scene, has still been an integral part of the show, supporting us, keeping us updates, chiming in when he can. Obviously, with his relationship with sports information, keeps him busy, so he can't be a regular. But we find a way in different ways to keep him updated. He always makes sure that whenever we need to get a coach from Texas Southern University, It's not even a thought that's easy to get done. And then you got to remember, he has connections all over the place. So we get those interviews from well. So I wanted to share that. But enough a little bit of that kumbaya and that back talk. Let's do what we do. And let me give you the poll.
Whose poll is this now?
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU poll, presented by HBCU Game Day. They have given us a little love in terms of supporting it in the background. So we've updated in terms of the presentation there. So doing a little work there. Let me start out with the women. Shivery's not dead. Again, this is the second week of the poll in terms of what that looks like. Dropping out last week was Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions, 2-7, 1-2. Started off really hot, but they took 2 tough losses, last 2 conference losses. Be interesting to see what they're doing after they got that big win against Mississippi Valley that first weekend, but hit a little bump, so they dropped out of the poll. And we're doing the top 5 teams. Receiving votes, Alabama A&M Bulldogs, Texas Southern Tigers. They got a big win, conference win yesterday against Prairie View A&M, only with 7 players. Got close at the end, but found a way to hold on to it. Kudos to Coach Cooper that just finds a way to get it done in so many different ways. This is after both teams not playing in a couple of weeks because the game's getting called off, at least, for Texas Southern Lady Tigers, if you would. Women of Prairie View were able to play, struggling a little bit, playing close, but can't quite get over the game and play 4 quarters as they do on the women's side. Then you got the Grambling State Tigers that jumped out of here, got a big win, but they haven't been able to play since then, so they're 2-3, 1-0 outside of the poll. So bringing us to our top 5 teams on the women's side. Go to each of y'all and get your comments on this. Jumping into the poll this week is North Carolina A&T State, the Aggies, the women's program, 3-1, 2-0 after some wins this past weekend. 53 points in some ways, getting it done in terms of what's going on there. Then you have number 4, Jackson State Tigers, 4-5, 3-1, 65 votes. They move up 1 spot from last week. At number 3, Alabama State Hornets. They are 2-0. Remember, they played no conference. 2-0 when the poll was released. They played today and won today, so they actually have jumped to 3-0 going this weekend's game. 82 points. Remain at number 3. It'd be interesting if I could have waited a little bit trying to put this together to see if that would have pushed them up in number 1 and 2 spots. Number 2 spots, Morgan State Bears sit at 4-2, 1-1, 4 first place votes. They split with Howard Bison that is number 1, sits at 5-2 and 1-1 with 5 votes. 95 points there. I'm gonna go with our guest Ryan first to get his thoughts, and then we'll go essentially around the horn, if you would, and talk about what's going on there.
Well, I pretty much agree with it. I'm not going to even dispute it because it's a crazy year. Just put out a release that we lost another game. So at least on the men's side. So this is going to be the first, and you can record me saying it. I have no issue with the poll, just because that everybody has a good body of work. Now, maybe the Alabama State, Morgan State 3-0, and one of those wins is against a strong Jackson State team. That's the only one I probably dispute. But overall, it's fine. It's fine to me. I mean, I know you didn't expect the kumbaya, but that's
exactly.
Hey, it's
100.
It's 2021. Yeah.
Man, did you have some Grand Marnier before you came on show?
Yeah, look, after this last email, I did. I need to.
Oh my goodness, that's pretty good, boy. It took me 100 episodes plus the ones before that to get this straight, but going back to 2014, finally got a little bit of hope. With that, let me go straight to Mike. Mike, what you think about the top 5 on the women's side?
You cleaned it up. I thought Alabama State should be higher, but you cleaned it. You must have felt it. Well, they got a win against Jackson State. Mm-hmm. They're 3-0 in the SWAC. Mm-hmm. The second lead in offense. All right, in the SWAC. So I would say Alabama State need to be higher. I haven't seen enough of Morgan State, so I'll leave them where they're at. So that's my only bone of contention is that Alabama State, they've proven at least to this point that they are for real. Given the circumstances, given how they play, these ladies are for real.
Yeah.
Texas Southern and Prairie View streams their home games in terms of that matchup. So Willie jumped in here. He saw it. He saw it last night. He said Prairie View Texas Southern game was a good one last night. So he got in there. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and see what that looks like on the men's side. But before we get to the men's side of the poll and get into some particular matchups in terms of the game, let's go to Charles and see what Charles says about the top 5 as Mike finds a way to kind of rub my nose in it a little bit. Let's see what Charles said.
My only flip-flop would be Morgan State and Howard. January 3rd, Morgan State, they defeated Howard. Howard came into that game 5-2. Morgan State knocked them off 71-58 behind Janai Henson's 19 points and Danae Reyes 15 points and 9 rebounds. So that would be my flip-flop. I think the story of the early season beyond, getting to play games has been Alabama State. They got another win today, but this is the first time since 2013 they started off 2-0 in SWAC play. And they have some young ladies, Yana Manuel, 29 points against UAPB over the weekend.
Jayla Crawford.
Exactly. Jayla Crawford. She's another one who really gets it done. And Shemaya Ward. So they kind of have a three-headed scoring deal going on at Alabama State. They're a tough team. And that win against Jackson State, that made everybody kind of, turn their heads. That was a good win against a strong Jackson State team. I think that win over Jackson State kind of woke Jackson State up a little bit, knowing that it's not going to be easy sailing in the SWAC this upcoming season. Look at last night's game. The Texas Southern just outside the poll. They only played with 7 players last night, and they have some injuries to manage as well. But Atiyah Bridges, 22 points and 11 assists. She had only 3 assists at halftime and really got everybody involved after halftime. Had 8 assists in the second half. Where are they going to find the scoring? There's no Rochelle Velez. There's no Siani Cryer this year. They got scoring last night out of Tierra Hammer, 20 points, and Brittany Gabriel, 13 points. So to get some other scores to go along with Atiyah Bridges, you're going to get some scoring from her night in, night out. But that was huge for Texas Southern to go on the road and get that win against Prairie View.
Well, with 7 players, you got to look at it. I mean, you can't win with 27 turnovers, which is what Prairie View had.
And that's been the early story of the season for Prairie View. You said 27 turnovers last night. They've started off 28 turnovers against Southern, which turned into 30 points for the Jags. 25 turnovers against Alcorn, which was another loss. So they've really got to flip that around in terms of turning the ball over so much, because they're really helping teams out in those games.
And those are mostly steals. Three quarters of those are steals. So ball security has been an issue, really.
That's been an early issue for Prairie.
If you drill down on it, so.
Mm-hmm.
Good points, great points there. Like that analysis going back and forth in there. I will say this about the point that you pointed out with Morgan beating Howard. That was a Sunday game, 71-58. But the day before, the MEAC played basically 2 sets. They played 2 days back. Yeah. Howard beats Morgan State 17-48. Interesting how the scores were kind of flipped in terms
of around, right?
Yeah. One team getting to 70 and the distance between the two in just one day is amazing. But I want to get in this before we get into the men's side of the poll. I did want to get your thoughts, each of your thoughts, in terms of what are your thoughts on the format? Which one do you like? If there's certain thing, obviously all this is COVID-19. Do you like the idea of what MEAC is doing, splitting it essentially in 2 divisions, reducing the travel, and playing back-to-back games versus what you see with the SWAC trying to play all the games and playing to their traditional schedule? Both of them, we see what goes on, because you saw FAMU have to cancel a game against North Carolina Central. Then they rescheduled to have South Carolina State. They were able to get the first one in on the men's side against South Carolina State, where FAMU won a close one there. But the second day of the game was canceled, COVID protocols, and we've seen that back and forth. But if you had your druthers of what you've seen early so far, which one are you kind of liking more, if you can, one way or the other? Let me go straight to Charles, and then we'll go back around.
Yeah, I think kind of to hedge my bets a little bit, I probably would lean a little bit towards the MEAC in terms of the reduced travel and the back-to-back sort of games. Hopefully, you're able to get that in. I thought Kendrick Marshall wrote a great article for HBCU Sports in terms of the number of games that have been lost thus far. And it's going to be a challenge, really trying to get through this season. I think it can happen, but I tend to kind of gravitate to kind of what the MEAC is doing in terms of the reduced travel and shortening up the divisions, if you will.
Yeah.
Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I
one over the other.
Yeah, I lean toward, kind of looking in the crystal ball and having hindsight, I would lean toward the approach of the MEAC. Not only do you reduce travel, you reduce exposure. When you travel, you got to stop, you got to stay here. So you're exposing them to more. So by an order of magnitude, if you're reducing the travel, you're theoretically kind of reducing the exposure. That's the thought process. And I would lean to that process. It's going to be challenging with any method, but if I had to lean, I would lean to the MEAC's method and their approach.
Ryan, you have more insight than many of us in regards to what that looks like. I know some of the stuff that you may not be able to share, but if you're able to say, do you see one side being more advantageous than the other, or is it really just something that we do from a media side to talk about it based on what you really see? It doesn't matter. For the most part, whatever you do, it's not going to help you in regards to whether the game gets in or not.
Well, I won't discuss the format because I haven't been able to participate in both of them. But my point is, regardless of which format, just give me past Wednesday and Thursday. And why I say those 2 days, because that's when most teams are testing. And if you can get past Wednesday, Thursday, we're great to play on Saturday. So I'm basically doing this from this point on up until 1st of June.
Yeah, great point. I can see why. A lot of prayers need to be said in many different ways, and great points you make there. Let's go into the men's side. I'm going to save Ryan last on this one since I started with him, and I'm going to go in reverse order. So I'm going to start with you, Charles. So check this out. A lot of teams receiving votes on the men's side, crowded in terms of trying to get into the top five. Not a lot of movement in the top five falling out, but one team did drop out. And I'll get to that with Hampton Pirates dropped out of the poll, sitting at 5-8, 4-4. Outside of North Carolina A&T, they played the most games, and most of their games they played are conference games in the Big South, as you know. They're only 4-4 in the Big South, as I just said. So that's one discussion you may want to look at in terms of what's going on there. Big South is similar to the MEAC. They're playing those back-to-back games in terms of conference games, trying to get games in. And they've been able to muscle through it thus far. They started a little earlier than everybody else, so it's interesting to see how that may play out. Receiving votes, though, North Carolina Central Eagles still hanging on there with 9 votes, 1 and 2. They haven't played since whatever, but they got that big early win against Southern in terms of starting things out. But had a tough game against North Carolina as they played them really tough in that matchup. But they have had just postponement after postponement. So I'm not sure if they're even going to be able to get back on the hardwood. Following them is Texas Southern Tigers sitting at 2-6, 0-1. Tough loss to Prairie View. So they still receive some votes, but really outside of the top 5 at 12. Grambling State Tigers sit at 3-6, 1-1 with 16 votes outside of the top 5. Also, FAMU Rattlers just talked about a little bit as they got their win over South Carolina State at home, 2-6, 1-0 in conference play. Weren't able to play the second conference game, 27 points, bringing us to Coppin State Eagles that really vaulted up, but not enough to get in the top 5. Sitting at 3-8, they are 2-0 in the northern part of the MEAC. So I have my eyes on them. I'm really interested to see what they're able to do moving forward. Bringing us to the top 5 teams, you have Prairie View A&M, last year's back-to-back champions of the regular season. And I did not designate a champion last year, but they were in that top spot coming out as North Carolina Central was ranked number 1 going into the tournaments with to see whether Prairie View could do it. And Prairie View won the championship back 2018, 2019. With them sitting at number 5, 2-4, 1-0 with the win over Texas Southern. They were not ranked. They jump in at 47. You have number 4, Alabama A&M Bulldogs sitting at 2-0. Have not played, sitting in there, but they got those 2 big wins. They do fall from the 3 spot, number 4. They got to get on the court, or you got to believe that they're going to fall out, even though they're sitting at 2-0. Be interesting to see if they're going to find a way to be able to navigate that. Really intrigued to see what they're able to do in conference play with those 2 big non-conference wins, including the only men's team with the win against a mid-major top 25 program. At number 3, your Morgan State Bears, doing it both on the men's and women's side. They sit at 5-3, 1-1, 74 votes. They had a win over Norfolk State early on, but then lost the back-to-back, so they split. They were at 4. They move up as they get it done in some ways. At number 2, North Carolina A&T State Aggies sit at 5-9. They are 2-0 in the conference race. 4 first-place votes, 96 points. Sitting at number 2 as they remain there. Number 1, Norfolk State Spartans, 5-4, 1-1 in the conference race. 5 first-place votes, 1 vote. Early on, I like to see how you mix it up there. I probably think there are probably some thoughts on this, but this is what the computer rankings say. Let's see what your thoughts are on what the rankings talk about for you, Charles.
Okay, first and foremost, let me shoot Prairie View all the way up to at least number 2. They impressed me tremendously. 28-game home win streak. They lost 5 starters from last year, and Byron Smith just continues to keep getting it done year in, year out. I was really looking forward to that matchup last night with Cam Mack from Prairie View and Michael Weathers from Texas Southern, because they've been kind of those early combo guard trendsetters that I've really kind of taken a liking to in the swag. But, Prairie View came out on top last night, and it was scoring from a different individual, Juwan Daniels. So he had a big night in terms of having a near double-double for Prairie View. But they just get it done now. And if there's any question where the balance of power has shifted in the SWAC, it's gone from Third Ward just beyond Cypress Wood out there to Prairie View. Prairie View is the team right now in the SWAC. So that's kind of where I look and see where Prairie View is. Alabama A&M, because of COVID, I just haven't seen enough of them, but they have 2 good wins on the slate thus far. Norfolk State, they get it done year in, year out, 1-1 thus far in conference play. We know North Carolina A&T is going to be there. But Dr. Cavil, keep an eye out for Coppin State. They start out conference play 2-0 in the MEAC, and I tell you, they have an individual who I mentioned earlier, in Anthony Tart. He's been consistent, MEAC Defensive Player of the Week, 4 out of 7 weeks, something like that. And he's also averaging 15.8 points per game. So look for Coppin State to get up in your polls at some point.
Boy, I say, Roosevelt jumps in here and says, "Oh, I see. He's trying to set us up for next week. I see you, Charles."
They got to get Stern test.
I'm ready for #J15. We know what that's about. Shout out. Much love there, Sarah, in a lot of ways, talking about that. As we start to close it out, we are going to close out. We extend it a little bit, as this is our 100th episode. We're going to get the comments in from Mike and then Ryan, and then we'll bid you adieu as we'll close up at the bottom of the hour as we talk about with Case Ways 1230. Hang on with us a little bit there. Mike Washington, if you would, tell us what your thoughts on the top 5 teams or the overall rankings of the men's side of the poll this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think Coppin State is a little intriguing. Was it they got a guy, was it Anthony Tark or something like that, who's looking pretty good. I think he's like number 4 or 5 in the conference. I do think Prairie View should have moved up to number 2 or 3. When you can maintain home court advantage since February 10th, 2018, 27-28 game advantage. I was looking forward to seeing Michael Weathers go against not only Cam Mack, but they got a guy coming off the bench, Darrell Roberts. Not only at this, but he's done it the last 2 games, come off the bench, bringing, scoring 15 points, getting
3-point threat.
Yeah. So 6'7" junior, that kid is balling, and I think they found something in him. You mentioned the starters they lost, but they got this kid coming off the bench still and giving solid points. Juwan Daniels had 21 points as well, 6-7 rebounds. So Prairie View had a strong showing last night. So I think they move up by on that thought alone. I think I need to see more from Alabama A&M. Unfortunately, the COVID, I agree with all the comments. The COVID has just got them in a stranglehold right now. So I would need to see more of them. But Coppin State is intriguing. I don't know enough about them, but they're looking pretty good as well.
Man, great comments from both of you all. I was interested in you could just see Texas Southern had that puncher's chance because it looked like Prairie View was going to run around with just know about those rivalries. Somehow they find a way to get close. Got a little close at the end, but it looked like Prairie View didn't have much to worry about. But you did see not playing many games and how the game was disjointed in some ways, a lot of turnovers that really got things going back and forth. But I thought it was fascinating from that perspective and good to see that they were able to get some fans that were able to enjoy the rivalry there and the fact that they got it in, got it played.
No DJ.
28 straight home games. Great point when you talk about why you would move them up in the poll. A lot going on, a lot of transfers, but it looks like Coach Smith has got it going over there. So in terms of the top 5 teams in the poll, Ryan, what are your thoughts on this poll in terms of moving forward?
Well, I could say one guy, the top of the poll. I don't know if he gets enough credit in general, and because and I'm going to use this term. Some people understand what I'm about to say. He doesn't get enough credit in terms of he coaches at the Texas Southern under MEAC, which is Norfolk State. Robert Jones. Robert Jones on a bad year is fourth place. Yeah. Norfolk State is a basketball school, even though they have a good football program. They had moments, but when you think of Norfolk and living out there, basketball reigns supreme out there. Yeah. And every year his roster is turned over. A lot of people don't realize just transfers or trying to grow some high school kids in there. And Norfolk is at the top. A bad year, and he even tell you that it's 4th place for him. And if you got that problem, that's a great problem to have. Anything beside it, like you said, I haven't yet to see A&M. I'm just praying for them because I think emotionally, y'all talked about this a few weeks ago with the mental health. That's taking a toll on those kids. You got the preseason hype. The one article had them number 1 or something like that recently, and no one's been able to see them. I mean, time we see them, I don't want people to be disappointed when they see them because of they just haven't been able to get on the floor, and for reasons they can't control, unfortunately. Anything beside that, you're not going to catch me in the Prairie View TSU rivalry, but Texas Southern had a 22-day layoff coming into the game. And ironically, this how crazy this COVID thing works. The TCU game, which was scheduled, that was TSU's game. Well, then who fills the spot? Prairie View A&M. Prairie View had fresher legs, and Texas Southern was just getting back. But I mean, it's no excuse. At the end of the day, the game is a game. But I'm not gonna break down nothing else beyond that because then y'all say I'm giving excuses or whatever. But you are Ryan, but that's okay.
No, Ryan.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No,
I'm kidding. Might give you the blues, but I'm a
But you did say something. There was a DJ at the game.
There was a DJ.
Yeah, but let me to explain. That's the thing. It was a move to Monday night. First time that game's been played on a weeknight since I was in college, and that was back in 1999 or 2000, something like that.
Wow.
But it's a difference, man. When the people are not in the gym, it's a whole different atmosphere. And almost like I just hate we were robbed of that experience. That game should have been on a Saturday, full house at Prairie View. Then the February game, we finally get it on ESPN. Finally picked it up ESPNU in a COVID year.
Yeah.
Wow.
But props to Dr. McClellan for arranging that because we've been on that bandwagon for years. That game should be on TV, Saturday night version. But just get through this year.
You just missed that atmosphere.
It is.
Yeah, right.
You just
and I swore I thought I heard a guy on a broadcast ask some questions, but maybe my ears was hurting last night. I swear that was a guy on the TSU broadcast asking questions that we familiar with, but we'll let it go. Yeah. I'm saying why wasn't he at the game? I mean, why weren't you?
Me?
Nah. Charles Bishop, he was he took your spot on Chatterbox pregame show.
Oh yeah. I heard. He took a shot.
Yeah,
COVID protocol. Yeah,
but he had a great interview with Ataya Bridges and got her to say some things, and so that was good on that.
Well, thank you, sir.
Brian's still making things happen, showing some love. Chatterbox, shout out to him. making space for all the folks getting it done. Mike will be in the mix before long. Shout out to those folks. Even G Boom out there running the camera at Prairie Gate.
Yeah, G Boom was running the camera.
Yeah, he was behind the camera. This time is a video camera, so I want to give him a little shout out as he does some work.
Sigma's do keep the operation afloat.
Say it again.
Sigmas, they keep the operation afloat. Y'all want to be the pretty faces behind in front, but it's us to keep it going.
Let the smart guys out in the front get all the talking.
That's right.
Let y'all do
Hey, Roy, hit the power button anytime you see fit.
Oh my goodness. Let me get a shout out to Cicely Parson, Gremlin. She does our script and a lot of the rights. Want to show us some love. She does a wonderful job and make sure that we keep this flowing. With that, again, just want to say thanks for everybody that joined us as we pushed it over just a little bit for episode 100. We got a lot of folks out there shouting us out, talking about congratulations on 100. I appreciate that. Karen Griffin giving us some love and shout outs in terms of what's going on there. Willie Alex Hine, God bless you guys for your 100 show. In terms of what we got there. Kay Johnson saying 100 episodes. So thanks for all the folks that chimed in and certainly giving us the anniversary of that civil mark, if you would, in a lot of ways, making it to 100. The Century Club, we continue to do some great things with Roy behind the scenes, leading the charge and finding a way to get it done. That'll do it for us today. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast, your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Ryan McGinty as a special guest, jumping back into the hosting seat, and so many little insight in terms of how all this began. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday right here, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to you next week as we will discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, DrKenyattaCavil, DrKenyattaCavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Follow us on Twitter, Inside HBCU Sports Lab 1. Check us out and subscribe to us on YouTube, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Course.
Mike.
Lecture.
Ryan.
Dismiss.
That'll do it for us.